All right. Welcome back to another episode of Hey Coach Radio. This is episode number 111. In today's podcast episode, I am joined in the HQ with Coach Zach Ritchie of The Educated Dieter, and the topic of conversation today is client motivation and discipline, what to do when a client falls off track. And then we're also going to be doing more of a live Q&A towards the end of the podcast show to basically cover some questions that I've been getting asked and some things that I've heard just this week from some of our client calls. So with that being said, today we're going to walk you through more of I guess you would say a motivation and discipline focused episode, because we know that clients eventually are going to fall off track, or maybe they have events that they're looking forward to. They've got life events, birthdays, some type of celebratory thing. We're in right now going into September. So essentially a lot of people are going to be traveling. They've got the family vacation deal planned and all that kind of thing. So we're going to dive into that to give you guys some straightforward tips of advice that you can implement into your life to make sure that you don't necessarily fall off track and you actually utilize more of your habits in these transitional phases. All right. Now, I'd like to remind you that if you happen to have any questions for us, you can go ahead and hit us up on social media. You can find me, William Grazione, here on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, or if you want, you can go ahead and send us over an email as well, and we will address your question in the next episode of Hey Coach Radio. If you're an avid listener of the show, please help us out and share this podcast with your friends and followers, and we will make sure that we can share it on our platforms as well. All you got to do is tag us. That's it. Each week, we provide you information and experience in the nutritional coaching world to help you apply the knowledge and gain the tools you need to change your life for the better, essentially creating the educated dieter. Coach Zach, what's up, man?
Nothing much.
Doing all right?
Every day seems to be the same right
Yeah.
now. I'm living that monotonous bodybuilding lifestyle.
Understand. So we didn't get the chance to record last week. So catch us up, man. What's been going on for the last 2 weeks?
Last 2 weeks, it consists of working, eating, sleeping, and training. That's
Straightforward.
really it. So it feels good. I haven't been traveling lately, which is great. It's been nice just being in my routine. But it is monotonous.
Why don't we talk about some of these most recent PRs I've been seeing?
Yeah, and so I've been really pushing things. I think this week hit a what was it? It was an incline Smith press. Got it for 500 for 3, and could have done more, but both my hamstrings cramped up.
I saw that.
Yeah,
Your legs
so
just went straight.
No leg drive, just decided to press it all chest, and so did that. And then today I think that we're going to be doing some incline dumbbells, probably the 170s or so for 10 to 12.
What gym do you train at that has 170s?
No, it goes up to 150, but we rig it. So
Okay.
we use some bands and throw on some plates on it, and it's dangerous and it's awkward because the dumbbells at that point are like this wide and extremely hard to press. But
Very strong people problems. I've never had to band a dumbbell in my life.
it's awkward, but yeah.
I've never
gym
banded a
said
dumbbell, ladies and
They're
gentlemen.
going to be adding some 155s to 200s here soon. So,
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Okay, and what's your primary gym at the moment?
I've been going to Counterculture Gym.
I've never
it's
even
a
heard
new
of
gym over
Counterculture.
in St. Pete. It's
Oh, really?
awesome. Yeah, I mean,
Cool.
the owners are awesome, and they have the best equipment. So they just opened the gym. They handpick everything, and it's awesome equipment. So they got some old stuff and then some customized new stuff. So that's a great gym.
Very cool, very cool. Well, obviously, great to catch up with you. Obviously, I can tell you're just getting bigger and bigger by the
goal.
week, and the PRs are just going up and up and up and up. How about them Tampa Bay Bucks, man?
Man, that was impressive.
Game 1.
I know, that was impressive. Well, I'm a Bears fan, but I still support the local team. So
Yeah.
it's awesome seeing Baker succeed. He's a likable guy, likable quarterback, and I was shocked by
Very
how
convincing win.
Yes.
Was it 37-20?
Yeah.
I think. And it got to a point, it got more than a 17-point lead, but I thought they did play really, really well. And, obviously, since Tom Brady kind of, obviously he is no more,
Yep.
right? And now we've been, put in a position where Baker's kind of stepped in and had to I mean, in all honesty, fill some pretty big shoes, but
Huge
he's
shoes.
doing
The
a great
best.
job.
Yeah,
you
I know. No, it's great that football's back. Gives us something to watch. We were in that lull there for a minute, not
Yeah.
having any sports to watch,
Yeah.
especially now that my Cubbies are
Yeah.
pretty much out of playoff contention.
Did you watch any of
so.
the Bucks in the preseason?
No, I don't. I don't really get into preseason. Like I'll turn it on, but I could care less.
You
Most
going to
of the
any of
time,
the games this year?
I'm sure. My parents are season ticket holders, so
Oh, cool.
typically if it's a late game, my mom's too tired, and so
Yeah.
my dad texts me and asks me to go with. Or if it gets to the later season games and it's chilly, which we live in Florida, so it's never cold. But
Yeah.
she also doesn't go if it's too cold. So
I totally
I
understand.
get to go and enjoy some Bucks games. So
It'll be nice towards the end of the year for sure. Once the weather here in Tampa Bay
I
kind
can't
of
wait.
chills out a
I'm
little
sick
bit.
of it. This has been a terrible summer.
One of the
underwater
hottest
too.
I've probably ever. Well, it's been the hottest and the most rainy that I've probably, ever experienced.
I think this is the most rain we've ever experienced.
I agree
Definitely
with
the
you.
hottest.
I agree with you. My, you've seen where I live, but
Yeah.
like I've lived there for 2 years, and we've never had like a problem with the driveways flooding.
Yeah.
But now the driveways are flooding because the water doesn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
That's
That's me in South Tampa right now. South
yeah.
Tampa's pretty much been underwater all
Dude, I've
summer.
seen some people that I know that live down there, and they've been posting the videos of their neighborhoods flooding.
Yeah, the
And
streets
it's just,
are crazy.
I mean, do you think it's just because it's being so overbuilt that the
That's what
rain
everyone's
doesn't
saying.
have anywhere to
is,
go?
Yeah, all the new infrastructure is, with the plumbing and the rain has nowhere to go, and so
Right.
they just haven't figured that out yet, I guess.
Yeah.
So you would think that would be some things that they would take on before adding a new building.
Well, they're seeing the same stuff in Pinellas County.
yeah.
With all the rain, and it's like these neighborhoods that, well, I mean, at least when I was growing up, they never flooded. Like we knew, okay, hey, Shore Acres is gonna flood.
Yep.
Non-negotiable. You live in Shore Acres, you're SOL. But now we're seeing places that shouldn't even be flooding.
Yeah.
And it's like, is it just because it's getting too overdeveloped and all
I
this
think so.
sewage and water and human waste has nowhere to go?
For cities that are surrounded by water, you should think they have the capability to deal with this.
You would think so.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and let's dive into this podcast episode. We have been shooting the crap for about 7 minutes. So, Coach Zach, let's go ahead and let's start this off. Just how do we keep clients motivated, or do you think it's better to teach them the importance of discipline to essentially make sure that even when they do go through these gaps of quote unquote motivation, that they still know what to rely on, which is the daily habits that made them successful in the first place?
Exactly. And so when they come to us, they're going to be motivated, but understanding that motivation is going to run out. You're not always going to have that motivation every single day. The days I'm motivated, I'm in the gym training. Days I'm not, my day doesn't look any different.
Right.
And so, and that should be the case. If you had a goal at the beginning, you are obviously motivated for a reason. Trying to keep that reasoning in the back of your mind at all times can definitely be helpful. But understand you're not going to be motivated all the time. And so always trying to keep that end goal in sight, the reason why you started in sight. But yeah, that motivation is, I mean, who cares?
It's fleeting.
So, yeah, exactly.
It comes, it goes.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of pointless.
The way that I like to think about motivation is motivation is more of the feeling,
Yep.
right? It's like, but we know, I mean, the feelings come, feelings go. One day you're riding a high, one day you're riding a low, and it's just like this inconsistent roller coaster wave.
Yep.
But I think discipline is, what do you do when there's no feelings attached, right? So what do you do if you're not paying attention to, quote unquote, like your emotions?
Exactly.
You wake up and I wake up, I hydrate, I read, I do my 20 minutes of cardio or whatever. But I'm going to do that regardless of whether I wake up and I feel motivated or I don't wake up and I feel motivated. Because the way that you're going to get motivated is by doing that stuff.
Exactly. Motivation shouldn't affect your actions.
Yeah.
And so that motivation, is probably going to last, especially at the beginning when someone reaches out to us, for a while. And so it should probably last long enough for us to actually create habits. And so I think I believe they say habits are formed within a matter of, 2 to 4 weeks of doing things consistently. So at that point, you've probably developed the habits and then it becomes a matter of discipline.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the instances where some of these things may find people in a position where they're just not sure what to do.
Yeah.
Some of these things that we've experienced are maybe it's your birthday party, or some of these adults that I'm seeing, they're like, it's my birthday week. It's like, come on.
I know.
You don't need a whole week to celebrate. But anyway, it's the birthdays, it's the family events, maybe it's your kids' birthdays, it's the family vacations. Also, I'd say like helping people through long-term fat loss phases is another one of these, because you have a client right now, she's been in fat loss for a long time. She's down like 60 something pounds, right?
Yep.
And so keeping somebody motivated and disciplined through that duration of time can even present a challenge.
Yeah.
We could also talk about when a client gets sick, what are some things that we could implement for them to basically make sure that they can get through the sickness and not just think they have to power through the sickness and keep training and keep dieting and all of that, because they have an overactive immune issue, and we actually need to calm the body down and then get them back on track. And then struggling mentally or getting too caught up in their emotions. We just talked about that. Kind of defining that, I think, is going to be really helpful, because I think too many people wait for the perfect time to feel good to do a specific thing. But if you just wake up and you ask yourself, okay, I'm not going to pay attention to how I quote unquote how I feel. Let's follow what my habits are. In most cases, you're going to find yourself after a couple hours of being awake back to that level of being motivated to fulfill and get things done, because you're building your confidence through the act of doing.
Yep.
Not the act of, well, then I end up looking at my phone for an hour and you end up wasting a morning. And then what would you do if you didn't listen to your feelings? So that's all. So what would you say are some of the best things that we can implement as coaches in order to help people kind of understand that even if you have these life events going on, and maybe let's just say, for instance, you drop the ball.
Yep.
I know 100% that it's so much better for you to be able to just pick back up where you left off and keep going.
Exactly.
But you do have a lot of people that would maybe they eat something and it's not what they're supposed to eat, or maybe they go 0 to 100 and they're just all or nothing. What do you typically talk to your clients about in order to get them back on track?
A lot of times under those circumstances, I'll even get clients that reach out to me and almost feel as they want to punish themselves for falling off. So a lot of times get a text, hey, this happened yesterday. Today, should I cut my carbs, or should I double my cardio, or this or that? And it's always the same answer. Just get back on track. Your body's gonna it's gonna re-navigate, and you'll be just fine. You'll get through it. As far as my biggest recommendation is communicating with your coach ahead of time. And so if you have a situation that's going to be, let's say, tempting, or you have a social event or this and that, letting them know ahead of time, we can usually come up with a game plan. Okay, well, hey, let's make today a refeed day, or focus more on recovery today, or some way in which they can enjoy that social occasion without being a complete a-hole. And so, completely, going balls to the wall in terms of falling off. And so if you make it more of a part of their program, they feel less of a failure for falling off. But and also wanted to get your take on this as far as, I don't know, just as a coach, I feel as though there's nothing more irritating than a weekly excuse. And so I could care less. And so that's the thing is, okay, you don't have to tell me each week of, oh, I did it again, or hey, oh man, this week I, fell off again, or I didn't stay disciplined, or this and that. I mean, my goal is to make your program to where you're going to see results. Your job is to follow it. And so how do you navigate that situation in which on a weekly basis, you're just getting an excuse here or there? And so they're the ones paying for the service.
Right.
We're creating the program. We know what to do in order to help them see results. But if a client isn't following it, or on a weekly basis is falling off, or how do you navigate that situation?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I think that what you have to identify is whether or not these people are actually just more negative people in general, right? Like, think about it. There are potentially, depending on how many meals you eat, right? There's potentially 28 meals you're going to eat over the course of 7 days.
Yep.
But you only focus on the one that wasn't ideal, or it didn't fit in your macros, or like, woe is me, I made a big mistake. It's like, Okay. Are you going to focus on the penny or do you want to pick up the dollar?
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's usually how I present this information to them. I just think you have a tendency of looking at the negative.
Yep.
Like, let's pay attention to all the positive, right? It's the same way in fat loss, right? You have somebody that's down, like maybe they're down, or this is a better reference. They start with us and they've got some type of metabolic or hormone related issue and they feel like trash. 30 days pass, they feel better, they're sleeping better, they got more energy, they're going to the bathroom every day. All those positive biofeedback markers, right?
Yep.
All of it's positive. But I haven't lost any weight. Mm-hmm. And it's like, not yet.
Yep.
But you're going to. Like, that's going to be a part of the process. But right now, that's not our process.
Yep.
You're just focusing on the one thing that didn't improve. So is your mindset just pre-programmed due to the way that you were brought up or your mom or your family or whatever? Yeah. Is it programmed to go that way? And if it is, I typically recommend like more of a positive self-help related text that maybe they could read and kind of learn how to transition that. I always see the glasses half full. That's just the way that I've always been. I've never been like, oh, there's, the glass is half empty. I see the opportunity. I don't see the downside. You know what I mean? Like if I make a mistake, okay, I know that I have the power to be able to do all the other things that I'm in control of, not focus on the one thing that I may not be in control of right now.
Yep.
So to answer that question, I think resetting the mind is probably the most important part and just getting them to understand that they can focus on the positive as easily as they focus on the negative. But does that help kind of start to answer the question a little bit? The other thing that I would say is if somebody does make an error or they go out and have pizza with their family and they think that's a really bad deal, as long as you don't completely just like blow your calories out of the park, like I usually don't make any changes. Most of the time, hey, like we're going to go right back to what we were doing. What were the foods that you were eating that made you feel your best? What were your macros that you were hitting that made you feel great? What was the training that you were doing? Any cardio that you were doing? Your daily step count, your sleep quality and patterns? We're just going right back to that. I don't care if you went out last night and ate pizza.
Yep.
Right? It doesn't mean you're going to go out every single night and make the same mistake over again. Now, if you did decide to do that, then you're one of these people that actually I don't want to say enjoys because I think it's more of a habit, just like being positive is a habit, but it's the self-sabotage cycle that some people find themselves in because they have this negative mindset or negative connotation around the idea of dieting and health and fitness.
Yeah.
I like to think about dieting, health, and fitness as the rest of your life.
Yep.
Not 12-week, 16-week, 20-week. 30-day. I don't like to think about it like that because if you ask somebody that's really healthy, and let's just say they're healthy from the inside out and they're in their 50s, ask them jokers if they looked at fat loss and health as a 30-day cleanse or a 60-day fat loss phase. They started being healthy really early on and just kept the same habits for the rest of their life. And if you can do that, that's the only way you're going to get into your 50s and still be in great shape. So like that's the path that I'm on now. Is like, I remember when I first started training, Zach, and I trained at the best gym. I think it was the best gym ever. And it was Gold's Gym, St. Petersburg. I think the address was 201 38th Avenue Northeast.
Oh, yeah.
Right by my house. Great gym. Loved it there. Unfortunately, they tore it down and built a Whole Foods, and it is what it is.
I trained there.
But oh yeah,
when it changed to Suncoast.
Oh okay, yeah.
And then they got bought out by Whole Foods.
Still the same gym.
It was awesome.
It was great. I knew the GMs over there, the owners, great people. I actually worked there. I was the janitor, believe it or not. And the reason I bring that up is because there was a group of older guys in there, and they trained 6 a.m. every day, and they're probably between 50 and 60. And all of them had good shape. They had lean core, vibrant looking skin. And I mean, they all looked phenomenal for their age, between 50 and 60, lean, muscular, vascular, worked out hard. And I remember one day I was asking them, like, man, what have you done to keep looking like this at this age, And not to insult them, because I was like, at the time I was only 20, you know. But they're like, well, son, you see what you're doing? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, your diet, your training, spending time outside in the sun, the cardio that you're doing. He's like, maybe I'm not doing it as extreme as you, but I've been doing the same stuff since I was your age.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh,
Consistency,
this is the long game, right?
Yep.
So I've never And even when I was 230 pounds playing college football and I wanted to start a fat loss phase, I never really looked at health and wellness and fitness as being a short-term thing. Because that ideology of it being a short-term thing essentially means that I have to return back to what I'm living now, which is hell for a lot of people.
Yep.
So if you find you find the positives, you find the holy grail of health and wellness. You know, if you're a spiritual person or a Christian, you find the Lord. You don't go backwards and you go back to finding this other thing, right? You found the best thing. Now, there may be a little pull and prod here and there throughout the journey, but once you find what's best for you, it's probably a good idea to stay there.
Yep.
And so hopefully that helps answer the question, but I've never looked at this journey that we are on as fitness focused people or just somebody that wants to live a healthy life. I've never seen it as a short term thing. But I think a lot of people with that mindset, they see it as a short term thing because everything that they've ever done up until the point where they've hired us has been short term with the goal of, I just want to lose this 10, this 20, and then I'm going back to drinking wine every night with my girlfriends.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So if you can think about this for the rest of your life, not just the right now, but think about it for the rest of your life, I really think it changes everything.
Awesome.
Yeah. Let's dive into client questions. So we got 2 client questions. We're going to dive into these. We opened them up a little bit before we started recording this podcast, but this is the first question. So this question came through on an Instagram live that I did last night, which if you guys want, you can go to my Instagram. You can check out the Instagram live. But what should I do if my goal is to lose 20 pounds? Okay. I've already lost 10, but I've plateaued. I already feel tired. My sleep is starting to become affected. Should I just drop calories and increase cardio like the traditional evidence-based coaches say I should? Or do you think it'd be a better idea if I implemented a 1 week, 2 week diet break and then allowed my body to lose the last 10 pounds I want to lose?
Yeah.
What do you say?
Personally, I think the second option was probably where I'd go.
Yeah.
Yeah. More so even based off of the data we were just looking at. I mean, when you just asked about how one of my clients was doing after we implemented a 2-week diet break.
Game changer.
She was already lean. We started seeing things slow down a little bit. Prior to entering a prep phase, we decided, hey, let's do a 2-week diet break. And 4 weeks later, she's down another 10 pounds.
Bada bing.
And so, I mean, this kind of falls perfectly into that same scenario.
Yeah. It also brings up a topic that I talked about yesterday on my Instagram live. And granted, I didn't tell anybody I was going to go live. I just was sitting at my desk and I was like, I haven't gone live in a while, so let's just go ahead and let's go live. Let's clip the mic on the hat and let's talk. And so the topic that came up yesterday was the idea around allostatic load, which for anybody that's not aware of what allostatic load is, essentially it's the culmination of all of the physiological and psychological stressors on the physiology at a given time, right? So we have, whether it be lifestyle stress, maybe she's a mom, she's got kids, married, a lot of stuff going on there just with that stuff. But then you also pair calorie restriction, you pair training 5 days or more a week, you pair the cardio sessions on top of that, you pair the fact that she may or may not have negatively impacted her sleep through losing X amount of weight. You also pair on top that she may be having some spotty cycles and not some really good ones. And I'm not saying directly about her, I'm just saying in general context. Allostatic load is the culmination of all of those things piled on top of each other. And the reality is allostatic load basically works on a bell curve. So think about a bell, right? And you've got a start to the bell, a peak of the bell, and then an end of the bell, right? So we have performance on this side, right? And then we have stress at the bottom. And then you basically start to increase stress, but then there's like a maximal, this is what your body can handle in terms of stress while keeping performance as good as possible. And when we talk about performance, we are talking about gym performance, but we're also talking about your ability to respond to the applied stressor. So it's a really good idea to keep that bell from rocking back and forth. Now, when you go off to the other side, you then have a lot of this situation where somebody's experiencing like the metabolic adaptation that people have been talking about forever, right? But what is metabolic adaptation? It's hormone down-regulation. It's hormonal adaptation. And so you find that in this phase where you have people that go from being optimal to being exhausted, to being burned out, and then they're just done and they can't follow it anymore. So ideally what the diet break's doing, and as a visual for you people that are watching this on YouTube, basically what we need to do is we need to take that stress and we need to shift it right back up to where the body still responds in an optimal setting. And I think this is what the diet break does.
Yeah.
It basically just takes that thing and it just puts you right back where you're responsive. And if you do that, chances are all of the negative biofeedback that you're experiencing right now after losing that first 10 pounds, most of it's going to be gone within 2 weeks.
Yep.
And so therefore what you've essentially done is basically reset the body back to where it can tolerate and manage the stress of the further restriction.
100%.
And so that's what both Zach and I would say would be the most ideal. If you want to lose 20 pounds, have a halftime. Have a break. Use a break right in the middle. And if you need direct application on how to implement that, just go ahead and reach out to either Zach or I, and we'll tell you exactly how to do it. But the longer I do diet breaks, the more I realize the power of them, and I also think that it's the future of dieting.
Yeah. During extreme cases, we've also been applying an adrenal reset protocol, which is more of a 30 to 40 day type protocol, and I've seen crazy results with that as well. Coming off of that, the body tends to respond so much better, just because it's, and like I said, it's a little bit more of an extreme when someone is experiencing extreme stress or their cortisol is kind of all over the place. We've seen some awesome results by implementing something like that, which is a little bit more an extreme protocol.
That can also be very useful for women that are over 40,
Yeah.
you know, for women that are in the perimenopausal transition, because most of them either knowingly or unknowingly, from all the dieting and the muscle loss that they've experienced, and they just keep doing the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, I've been trying to lose the same 20 pounds. I lose it and then I gain it back. It's like, when's the last time you didn't diet? And
Yep.
when's the last time you actually poured into your rest and recovery bucket and didn't just keep pouring into your stress bucket?
Yep.
Right? So I think what we're doing with the adrenal reset or the cortisol reset, as well as increasing calories and kind of focusing on this concept of allostatic load, and basically what it is stress management.
Yep.
You know, is basically we can manage the system back to where it's responsive. Something that I said years ago, and I still believe this 100%, is a body that responds to training and calorie restriction is a healthy body.
Yep.
Now the response is fat oxidation, the response is fat loss. A body that doesn't respond to those things and their stress actually skyrockets, or their blood glucose goes up when you try to calorie restrict, or they don't lose weight the same as they used to.
Yeah.
Those are unhealthy people. So
Yep.
we have to basically treat them more from the inside, utilizing all the functional stuff that we can do at the Educated Dieter and get them back as healthy as possible.
Yep.
Okay, next question. I'm not going to drop any names here, but this was a great call that I had earlier this week, and it was a woman. She was in her 30s, and she was prescribed testosterone for having low testosterone after a fat loss period, a fat loss phase. And one of the primary reasons why I made the post that I made this morning on my Instagram is essentially because of the fact that I have seen this before,
Yep.
but I do not share the same. I don't share the same ideology surrounding the idea of what should happen with those people, because I come from the background of natural bodybuilding, and I know that what can be suppressed during metabolic adaptation and fat loss can also be recovered, especially for a woman in her 30s.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this a little bit. Should a woman in her 30s, mid 30s, even maybe early 40s, should she be medically prescribed testosterone if she just has low testosterone from dieting?
No. That's crazy.
Just like, no.
It's going to come back. And so there's nobody after a extreme fat loss phase, or let's say a contest prep, from a natural standpoint, male or female, whose labs that you check aren't going to show low hormone profile.
Yeah.
And so their body at that point is, just trying its best to protect itself, and those sex hormones are going to be extremely low. And if you go to an endocrinologist and you don't tell them that you've been extreme dieting, as far as pushing yourself from a training standpoint and being on extremely low calories, they're probably going to think something's wrong with you as well. And so they're going to think something's wrong. And so, but it's not. And so it's just your body's response to being in that constant state of stress.
Right.
But like you said, it comes back, and it comes back pretty quick. You get them back up to maintenance and focusing on some of those things, and not torturing yourself for a prep, then yeah, your hormonal profile is gonna return.
Yeah.
But jumping straight on HRT, which is a commitment, and typically a lifelong commitment, is kind of a crazy thing to do, unless if that person's goal is to become an enhanced athlete, or if that's just something they want to be on for the rest of their life. But for someone who's uneducated in this space, definitely it's easy to manipulate someone into
Right.
thinking that they need to be on hormone replacement therapy.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, if we didn't have the background and the experiences that we've had, we wouldn't be able to talk so clearly about this. But the reality is, with metabolic adaptation, you do see a lot of negatives when it comes to just your internal hormonal function as a whole.
Yep.
And that's just because your physiology is trying to keep you alive.
Yep.
It's positively responding. It's essentially what it's supposed to do to keep you alive.
Yeah.
Just down regulating everything.
Yep.
Right. And I can tell you that, as a man, from about 4 weeks, 6 weeks out from a bodybuilding show, I mean, I wasn't thinking about sex at all.
No, your body thinks that
Nothing.
it can't even sustain itself. Therefore, it's going to shut down your ability to reproduce.
Right. And in most cases, like, I wouldn't feel, quote unquote, back to normal or, fully functional. Probably for at least maybe 4 weeks or so afterwards, and then once I've regained about 7 to 10 pounds of body fat, like, we're right back. But that doesn't mean that you're back to being optimal. It just means you're back to being functional,
Yep.
which I think is a lot different. And so obviously we try to get people back to being optimal, and in most cases, I think for a natural person, utilizing the lifestyle interventions that we're in control of, how much cardio you're doing, what your training looking like, what is your lifestyle looking like, the nutrition protocol, as well as over-the-counter supplementation, to get back to like what is optimal or what you were at before you started. If you do it intelligently, I think you can be back probably within like 12 to 16 weeks, like all the way back. But it also depends on how aggressive you dieted down, whether you dieted intelligently or you dieted like an idiot and you were plateaued for most of the fat loss phase. After you lost your first 20 pounds, you just kept beating a dead horse. That's a different story. And I think that we have to begin to educate the end consumer on how to diet intelligently so that we can protect our metabolism, protect our muscle mass, and protect our hormones while we improve our body composition.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, dude. That wraps up this podcast episode. Coach
Awesome.
Zach, I
Yes.
appreciate you,
Thank you,
brother.
sir.
Thank you for driving up all the way from South Tampa. Thank you for taking Rip to the dog to play with some doggy daycare over there.
That's right.
And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Hopefully you found a lot of value in this podcast episode. And if you did, go ahead, help us out. Leave a comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube. And also, if you're finding a lot of value in this podcast show, you can also help us out. Those of you listening to this on Spotify, Libsyn, or iTunes, and you can help us out and leave us a 5-star review as well as a rating wherever you're watching this on any platform. We appreciate you guys. God bless, and we'll see you in the next one. See ya. Bye. Super tight. You know what I need is a back pad.
Yeah,
Now we're playing footsies.
I know.
It has like a...
Honestly, I wish it had something to tighten it.
Shit, boy. Let's see that.
Is there anything
You can lock it.
You can?
Yeah, there's a little knob on the side. Looking at the camera actually, I think, works a little bit more.
All right.
So, look at the camera. Every now and then, we don't look at the camera a lot.
Yep.
Every now and then, just glance over at the camera. I think it'd be good for the people in YouTube land.